Attention, flight delay passengers.
All right, let me say this properly. The next time you fly with Fly Dubai, you might hear a familiar voice. Yes, mine. Unbox the Podcast with Sahar is now available on board. So imagine this. You're in the sky, somewhere between where you are now and where you are going, and at the same time, you're traveling within yourself. No downloads, no planning, just press play. And yes, I'm officially your flight companion now. So the next time you fly, let us travel together to new places, new thoughts, new perspective, and deeper awareness. See you on board. Have you ever noticed that the problem is no longer that you lack clarity, yet you're not still moving? You already know what needs to change. You can see it clearly. You can explain it, and you have thought about it more than once, and yet nothing shifts. This is the point where many people misunderstand themselves. They assume they're still overthinking, still searching, still trying to find the right way or the right answer. But that is no longer true. You are clear. So the real question becomes, why are you still not acting? Welcome back to Unbox the Podcast, and today we're going to talk about the gap between knowing and doing. I'm Sahar Hunidi Palmer, and it's good to be with you. Clarity is not the problem anymore. There comes a stage in self-awareness where things become very obvious. You recognize patterns quickly, you see misalignment sooner than others, and you know when something no longer fits. And yet, your external reality doesn't change. This is where many people stay longer than they need to. They continue to analyze, reflect, refine their understanding, believing that clarity will lead to better action. The fact is, it doesn't, because the issue has moved. It is no longer the ability to see, because now you can see clearly. It is in your willingness and readiness to act. This is what we're going to talk about. What you're experiencing at such moments is the gap between what you internally know and what you allow yourself to do externally. So it's between the inside and the outside. You know you need to have a conversation, for example, but you delay it. You know a decision is overdue, but you sit with it. You know something is misaligned, but you continue as if it isn't. This is not confusion, this is hesitation. And hesitation isn't random. It has a structure. So what actually stops you from acting? You do not act for one reason. You stop because all four parts of you are not aligned at the same time. This is why clarity alone doesn't move you. At the level of the body, action feels like disruption. Your body prefers what is familiar, even if it is misaligned. So when something requires change, there is resistance. You feel it as hesitation, heaviness, or delay. At the level of emotions, you're not reacting to the action itself. You're reacting to what the action might cause. Shall I say that again? On an emotional level, you're not reacting to the action, to taking the action itself. You're reacting to what that action might cause. For example, loss of approval, or conflicts, uncertainty, even a change in identity. So instead of moving forward, you pause to avoid that emotional shift. At the level of the mind, this is where it becomes convincing. The mind steps in to protect your current state. It gives you reasons that sound valid. This is not the right time, for example, or I need to think more, or let me wait for the right moment, or even let me prepare. And because these reasons sound logical, you trust them. And then there's accountability, where you stop quietly, not in a dramatic way, in a subtle way. You delay, you postpone, you tell yourself you will come back to it later. This is the structure of hesitation. It is not that you don't know, it is that your system isn't aligned for the information to flow through you so that you can act on what you know. So, why do we stay in this pattern? If you look closely, this is not about laziness or lack of discipline. It's about protection. You are protecting a current identity, a current dynamic, or a current level of comfort, even if that comfort is no longer aligned with who you are becoming. So the result is you remain clear but inactive. Let's talk about the illusion of progress. At this stage, there is a very convincing illusion. You feel like you're moving forward because you're thinking deeply, reflecting, and processing. But thinking about change is not change. Talking about change is not change. Planning for change is not change. These are parts of the process, but they're not movement. Movement begins when something shifts in your behavior. Then you overcome the inertia. Any small action will do. If you're listening to this and recognizing yourself, please pause for a moment. Notice where you're at in your life. Are you really clear, but not acting? Don't analyze it any further. Just identify where and what it is that you're posed at. And if you want a practical way to see this clearly, you can download my Bima Alignment Whip List PDF from my website. It will help you track where you're aligned, where you're not, and you'll be able to identify what's holding you back in a direct and grounded way. I'll leave the link in the episode notes. So let's talk about what real alignment looks like. Alignment isn't something you think about, it's something you demonstrate. It shows up when you take action. It is when a decision is followed by movement, even if that movement is small, even if it is imperfect or feels uncomfortable. You're not going to take the action, no one else will do it for you. It's up to you to allow yourself to take that action. This is where your internal clarity begins to match your external life, your external reality. Without that, you remain divided between what you know and how you live. This will create more tension within you and within your life. A simple way to work with this is stay grounded. You don't need to change everything at once. Choose one thing. One decision you already know is waiting for you to take action. One action that you've been postponing. And take a step, a small step. Not perfectly, not completely, just enough to move. Because movement creates clarity in a way that thinking never will. Think about it. The minute you take an action, immediately there's a reaction, and then you can recalibrate or adjust. Courage is not about what you already know. The courage to be you is not about discovering something new. It is about trusting what is already clear and trusting yourself to show up and take that step that you've been postponing, however small, but take it. Not because you feel ready or certain, but because you recognize that staying where you are is no longer aligned. And because taking action is what really changes reality. Courage isn't a concept. It is movement. If you recognize yourself in this, then you're not stuck because you lack clarity. You are at the point where clarity is already present, but action hasn't followed. So instead of asking yourself, what else do you need to understand? Try asking yourself a different question. What am I already clear about, but I'm not acting on? Keep it simple. One decision, one action. One step that brings your internal clarity into your external reality. This is where change begins. Thank you for spending this time with me on Unbox the Podcast. You've been listening to episode 14, season 26, and I'm happy to say my cat has been with us listening all the time. If what you've heard today resonated with you, please follow and subscribe on your platform. It helps the podcast reach more people, and you won't miss what comes up next week. If you're at a point where you're clear but not moving, this is exactly the kind of work that I do with my clients. You can book a strategic clarity session through my website, and we will look at where you are in alignment, where it's breaking down, and how to move forward in a way that is right for you. And if you want to continue the conversation in a more structured way, I also write a monthly LinkedIn newsletter where you can go deeper into identity, clarity, self-leadership, and visibility. You can find it through my profile on LinkedIn, but also in the show notes. Until next Tuesday, stay aligned.